Hey, you're drinking here with Matt and Johann from Phoenix Magazine, curators of the Arizona Craft Beer Awards and Festival here on Instagram, podcast, and on YouTube. Johann, we teased it in one of our last episodes, 2 episodes ago. This is episode 16, by the way.
Cool.
In 14, we teased the Coriega Beer Company and that we were going to do this Gundecked blonde. Today, we're deciding that you are going to have this blonde, and I'm going to have the other one, this Beyond the Depths American IPA. What do you say about that?
Sounds good to me.
All right. So Coriega, we found this beer at Beer World in Mesa, a small little convenience store, kind of on my way to work. And I can find them also at King's. They've showed up on Untapped at like Craft Beer Hop Stop up in North Phoenix, Craft Beer Quick Stop North Phoenix, places like that that are kind of North Phoenix is kind of their territory, if you will. They are brewing right now at Throne Brewing, like we mentioned in the last episode, or 2 episodes ago. A brewery in planning was the word I was kind of searching for. I remembered I'd read about it. They call it a BIP for short, an acronym, brewery in planning. These guys have been home brewing for about 6 years, Coriega Beer Company, and these are 2 of their mainstays, if you will, kind of the 2 of the popular ones that they have now that they have canned. They obviously work on a few more, and then in hopes of one day opening their own location. And they're kind of aiming at the North Phoenix area.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of the backstory on Coriega Beer Company. I have a little bit more.
I've noticed all their labels are kind of spooky. They got this like Grim Reaper holding a hop, which is kind of a fun logo.
Yeah, so they are kind of their theme, if you will, is a spooky, paranormal, haunted kind of, celebrating that haunted kind of history of Arizona.
Love
if
that.
You will.
That's super cool.
They're big into celebrating places like Tombstone and Jerome and Prescott, kind of those old Western type of places, and they told me over Instagram that they are looking forward to collabing with some of the people in those cities.
Love that.
And brewing some more kind of haunted year-round beers, not just Halloween. So they want to celebrate the haunted and paranormal of Arizona year-round.
Have you been to Jerome?
Yeah, I went through there, and they have that burger place up there.
The haunted hamburger?
Yeah, the haunted hamburger.
The Asylum.
You know, you can get good beer there. So.
Yeah.
They have
the Asylum Hotel, and the restaurant in there has probably the best butternut squash soup I've ever had.
Okay.
Yeah. Big fan of Jerome. Anyway.
So you're getting this Gundecked.
Yep. 5.4% alcohol. Nice low IBUs. Just a good old blonde ale. Immediately can just smell that like toasty sort of malt and yeast smell of like liquid toast, which is a ideal beer for me for like the hot summer days. Just a nice beer flavored beer.
Okay. Beer flavored beer, I like that. So this is I'm having the Beyond the Depths American IPA, 7.2 ABV, 67 IBU. I got a lot of tropical fruitiness, citrus, bitter. Like I like it.
Yeah.
You know, it's a nice clear. When I look at it here, I can see my hand through the glass.
What I like about this one is it's a little higher on the IBU scale than your typical blonde ale. I feel like blondes are usually like low 20s, high teens.
Yeah, this one's 27.
This one's 27, right? And it has just that little touch of hoppiness on the back end that kind of balances nicely with that sort of toasty flavor on the front end.
Okay.
And so it's different than I feel like some of the blonde ales I've had lately, and it's in a great way.
Good.
It's very good.
Good. Yeah. They want you to have that kind of on a hot day. They say it's light and crisp and crushable.
But it's got still that touch of hops in it, which is nice.
So Gundecked is the name. If we didn't mention, veteran-owned place, Coriega Beer Company, they told me that Gundecked is naval slang for, check this out, naval slang. It means to fake, falsify, or do shoddy work and make it appear as if it's done correctly. So
Fake it till you make it.
that's right. That's right.
I like
and
that.
that's it's interesting that the blonde ale is named that, because I think a blonde has to be, it's like a lager pilsner, has to be kind of brewed precisely, right? Not
Yeah.
like an IPA where you can hide a lot of imperfections.
Yeah,
So-
the lagering process, I'm not super familiar with it, but I know it's very temperature sensitive, so that's why lagering takes longer. You have to have it cooled to a certain temperature. Again, not super familiar with it, but I know enough that it's a longer process, so it's a harder beer to make, and it does require some pretty precise temperature controlling. I have a friend who did a lot of home brewing, and he had to go buy this basically a chest freezer, and then install kind of a secondary temperature controller on it to make sure that it was always at the exact temperature he wanted it for whenever he was lagering his beer. So so I don't know, it's funny that it would be, that the name would be something that means to fake or to do shoddy work and make it appear as if done right, and yet it's definitely a kind of beer. Although now that I look at it, it's not a lager; it's a blonde ale.
Sure,
so it's not
Blonde
lagered.
ale, yeah, right.
So
yeah, I wasn't sure if the process on a blonde ale allows that to be.
yeah,
if you
ales
can-
don't require that sort of temperature
Sure,
control.
sure.
So
if you can mess up a
Yeah.
blonde and still have it come out tasting the same. I know that's the big kind of criticism of IPAs a lot, or
Yeah.
hazy IPAs. Is,
well, I mean, the beer process requires, precision to some degree. You can't just dilly-dally it. It's definitely, whether it's an easier beer to brew, easier being relative like an IPA, or something more complex like a lager, you still need to, follow certain steps and reach certain temperatures and allow for certain, chemical processes. So it's definitely not, it's not easy, and it's still a pretty precise process. I think there are just some styles that are a little more forgiving than others.
right.
But yeah, I mean, it's biochemistry. Beer brewing is literally biochemistry, because
Yeah.
you're adding yeast. You have different strains of yeast. You have to make sure there's it's super sanitary, because if bacteria gets into the mix, then that does a whole other thing to the flavor. It can spoil the beer, or it can make a beer sour. There's actually I remember reading an article about how beers before a certain date, which I don't know, probably sometime in the 19th century, were all sour, because their ability to sanitize the equipment was limited.
Okay.
And so there was always kind of wild things making their way into the beer process.
Right.
I was recently in Scotland, and I was, touring some of these old castles where they brewed ale, and they're brewing it in open air, usually in some sort of cauldron or pot.
Sure.
Or something like that is
Sure.
where they're doing that. So it's open to the air, so anything can get into it.
Collects the
And
wild
anything,
stuff in the air. Yeah.
Right. So it makes sense that before a certain date, all beers were soured in some way, because they were just exposed to the elements. Whereas now, if you're brewing at home, if you don't sanitize every little thing that you use, if you're bottle conditioning, you have to make sure the bottles are sanitized, and you have to make it. There's a lot of work that goes into it. That's why I'm I appreciate a good glass of beer because of that.
Oh yeah. When you listen to that and you hear all the work that goes into that, you have to appreciate a good beer.
Yeah.
And so
It's also what makes me appreciate breweries that can make a lot of the same beer and have it all taste the same.
Yeah.
Multiple batches of beer and have it all taste exactly the same. I think that's I'm not much of a Budweiser drinker at all, but there's something to be said for a company that can brew millions and millions of gallons of beer a day.
Oh yeah.
And have it all taste exactly the same.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I don't know what rant that was about.
No,
but
talking
here we are.
about all that. I mean, we've been going through a lot of this kind of behind the scenes work to work on the Arizona Craft Beer Awards, and it involves judging and learning and sensory tasting and all that sort of thing. And we are getting more and more into it. I'm really looking forward to sitting down with the folks at Four Peaks coming up in a week, and the people at the Arizona Craft Brewers Guild, and starting to learn this stuff and have more of those trainings for judges that we're going to have for the awards coming up in October, and our festival in October.
It's one of the things I'm excited about. Yeah, about this the awards and the festival. I feel like it's going to be a very sort of community-centered event. The awards are going to bring in professional judges, but also amateur judges, people who've never judged before, versus also having people that have judged, Great American Beer Festival and World Beer Cup and all these different, big competitions. So we're going to have sort of a nice mixture of experience levels. So it kind of makes the whole process feel very, for lack of a better word, small d democratic. In that, like, everyone has an opportunity to get involved, and even if you don't get chosen as a actual judge, there's opportunities to be the beer steward, which is the person who kind of runs the beer out to the judges and make sure that they don't, because it's all blind tasted. So there's a lot of different opportunities for people to learn more about not just the beer community and the beer industry, but also that, like you said, those tasting skills, developing your palate and understanding your sensory, your senses better when it comes to beer. So I think that's what I'm most excited about our whole partnership with the Guild, is that it really feels like an effort to really elevate the Arizona beer community to a different level.
Yeah. Get them competing.
That's right.
And competition's going to breed better beer.
That's right.
Hopefully. I mean, it's already great beer, and Coriega proves that. They're fairly new on the scene, even though they've been brewing out of their house for 6 years. But I expect bigger things from them
for sure
in the future. And I know that they have a couple new beers coming out, another West Coast, another hazy coming out pretty soon. So look for that. They brew out of Throne Brewing out in Glendale, and look for their cans across the valley. Look for them on tap at places like King's, and really looking forward to more from them and drinking more of their beer in the future.
Perfect.
And looking forward to October 22nd.
October 22nd.
The Arizona Craft Beer Festival.
Yep, yeah, you got to check out azcraftbeer.com, or just check us out on Instagram at ACBAFest. And we're going to be doing a lot more of these videos, and we're going to be making all kinds of great announcements as they come for the festival. But as of now, October 22nd, just mark that calendar.
That's right.